No funny voices today. I'm going to read this one directly from a message that I got a few days ago. The question goes, how did you deal with frustration when you started off, and what did you do to get through it? Should I not care if I'm accepted by my peers? Great question. Now, the question is a three-parter. The first one is, how did you deal with frustration when you started off making music? When I started off making music, it's almost like life will make you continue to learn the same lessons over stubbornly until you finally accept to learn it the right way. Now, there's certain things that happen to us. Maybe we get frustrated with the process of making a song. Maybe we're mad that our songs are taking so long to make. And until you understand that this is a process, this is something that is meant to be a process, and everybody has their own set of natural skills. It may take you an hour, it may take somebody else 6 hours to make one verse. That's fine. Done is better than perfect. So you got to get it done. When it comes to the frustration aspect, really what I found was that I've talked about this before in other videos. Those mini accomplishments, those M-I-N-I, those mini accomplishments, they start to push away at the frustration because you start to feel like, well, at least I'm growing. Most times frustration comes from not growing at all, or feeling like you're just stagnant, feeling like you've been putting all this energy into something and there's no movement from it. So if you can have yourself some mini movements, mini accomplishments, what you'll see is that a lot of that fear, a lot of that frustration, a lot of that stress will start to alleviate itself because you're starting to see that you're having these sort of smaller accomplishments that tell you and remind you this is a process. It's not supposed to come easy. The next part of the question is, what did you do to get through it? I feel like I just answered that. What I did was I actually had to put feet to pavement and work and realize that this is a process. This is like when I first started, it wasn't these KRKs. It was literally Walmart speakers with a subwoofer that I got off of a Quiznos paycheck because it just had to get done. I had to hear my music in a different light. Once I got better with it, once I started seeing the progress, frustration started to leave, and I started to make upgrades to the studio equipment. The next part about it, and this is something that I really want to get to and I'm really passionate about, should I not care if I'm accepted by my peers? Listen to me. When I first started making beats, and I finally started finding momentum and I actually got my first placement, the idea of me leasing my beats for 25, 19 bucks was something that I was terrified of because a lot of my producer, I don't know, folks that I look up to, I mean, I want to call them mentors, I want to call them big bros. A lot of folks I looked up to were like, don't do that because that cheapens your brand and you're never going to make real money doing that. And that was the frustration. But something I realized is that it's human nature, and it's not even with malicious intent sometimes, it's human nature for your peers not to want to see you do better than them. And a lot of the times when they're too fearful to move forward within their career, their stagnation and their fear comes out in aggressive demands of you and what you should be doing with your career. They'll come out and say, don't do that. You shouldn't do that because that's stupid. They'll come off aggressive to you and you'll look at them as an authority figure, not hearing the fear that's behind that voice. Stress is linked to fear. Let's just get down to the nitty-gritty. That's just what it is. Frustration is linked to fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear that things are not going exactly the way that you want them to go. So should you give a damn about what your peers, or should you worry about being accepted by your peers? No. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to make your peers accept what you're doing, especially if you're doing something extraordinary from like maybe your friends that go to high school, that you went to high school with, or you're doing something extraordinary from your coworkers, the only thing that's going to make them respect what you're doing that is extraordinary, my homie Richie said it, is results. Freaking results. When you start to produce results with what you're doing, all of a sudden those coworkers that didn't want to come to your shows, all of a sudden they'll start popping up. Those girls that you were trying to get attention from who were like, nah, like you just some old struggle rapper. The minute that you have some sort of huge cosigner, that you show up on some BET MTV show or some kind of reality, whatever the case may be, your Instagram starts popping. All of a sudden they start to find their ways to your environment. This is not by mistake. This is because people when you make the decision that you want to do extraordinary things, you have to expect extraordinary responses from the people who are around you. They're not used to it. But when you start producing something that is familiar to them, like humongous success that they usually see in other people that we don't have any kind of reach to, or folks that you look up to, then all of a sudden they look at you in a different light. Then it's like, you know what? I kind of look at your nose a little different now. You kind of, that's a sexy little nose. You know, they start doing that. Don't look at me crazy. But that's what it is that once you start producing results, all of those folks who are ignoring you, those people who are not retweeting you, those folks who are not showing you support, I'm telling you, once you get them moving, they're going to be all up in your business, and you're going to probably not want them in your business. Once again, it's another Curtspiration. Look, please subscribe to the channel. I don't know why I pointed up there. There ain't no subscribe button. The subscribe button is down here. Subscribe to the channel. And look, if you have any questions, please make sure that you answer in the questions below. Oh, no, not answer. You want a question. Anyways, leave a question in the comments. And also, when you decide that you want to do extraordinary things, you're going to get extraordinary responses until you start producing results. So don't worry about your peers. Your peers will come around once you start producing results in what you're doing. But you got to make sure that you take care of those quiet moments of desperation that you have in you. You calm that down and you take care of your business. They'll all eventually come around. And they'll all realize what you realize, that in this life you will not be full of life until you decide to live life to its fullest. Curtis King of CurtisKingBeats.com. Boom. Nigga. I can't listen to you. When I listen to you, it's a liability. Cause you be mentally killing my inner energy. So I'm concealing my feelings before you injure me.